He's single-minded. He was going to go for a woman that night. He didn't care where it was. Cranbrook Road is a busy road. Or this was in the early hours, but you have traffic flow going through there. It's residential. You have houses down there. You have CCTV down there. But this didn't put him off. There are grainy images of the attack, but you get the sense of the ferocity of the attack, how brutal it was, and it was brutal, and it was sustained.
Just how far can one go just to satisfy their sexual gratification? Kill perhaps? Well, this case is one that is shocking and, to be honest, terrifying. The attack was brutal, very brutal, and it was sustained. The fact that it was a residential area full of security cameras and people wasn't an issue for this attacker. He just couldn't care less. He had a target and was determined to do whatever he had in mind, damn the consequences. He just wanted to kill. And the victim, a lone female who was significantly smaller than him, stood no chance. What happened to Zara Aleena, and why did she come to lose her life in the hands of a sexual predator? Well, let's dive in. Zara was a 35-year-old, bright, aspiring lawyer whose dream was to become a certified solicitor. She had completed a legal practice course to finally practice as a solicitor and had just started working for the Royal Courts of Justice, where after 2 years she'd be a fully qualified solicitor. She was the firstborn to her single mother and was raised by multiple generations in the family. She was so loved by her family, and they did all they could to make sure she was happy. Zara had a carefree spirit with a kind heart. She supported refugees fleeing violence and volunteered at local food shelters. She had empathy for the less fortunate. She also loved and cared for her mother and grandmother, ensured they had food, medication, and company. She also loved cats. She loved to travel and explore and had many trips around England and Europe. She also loved ballet, tap dance, swimming, and was a gifted ice skater. On June 26, 2022, Zara met with a friend at a local pub named the Great Spoon of Ilford. After dinner and a few drinks, they went to another bar in the local area. Zara decided to only drink water as they conversed. The two then parted ways, and Zara decided to walk home since it was a short distance and a safe neighborhood. The place was full of CCTV cameras, and being a residential area, she felt confident. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a deadly night, and she was brutally attacked on her way home. This is where we introduce a 29-year-old man called Jordan McSweeney. This man began his criminal career as a teenager. He's a serious offender with 28 convictions for 69 offenses dating back to 2006. They include racially motivated offenses, drive offenses, assault on police, burglary, violence against women, and attacking people in public. Prison was his home for most of his young adult years. He had just been released from prison actually a week before the murder and 2 days after he was supposed to be arrested for missing his probation appointment. McSweeney had gone out to drink at a pub and minutes after midnight kicked out for harassing a female staff member. He then began hunting for a victim. He was almost hit by a car while crossing the road, probably after having one too many drinks, and couldn't fully focus. But despite that, he was determined to satisfy his sexual gratification. He was first seen stalking a woman who noticed she was being followed. She entered a nearby shop and thought she had lost him, but he left the shop and was actually waiting for her around the corner. After cautiously exiting, she left the shop to the right, but he still followed her. She sprinted away to the streets while Jordan followed her with a stride. After 21 minutes of pursuit, she was able to outrun him. He then found a new target at 1:56 a.m. after wandering the streets for a whole hour. He followed her for a few minutes, and there were actually 2 men on the other side of the road who saw this happening but didn't do anything to intervene. She became aware of what was happening and crossed to the other side. He, however, overtook her and was waiting to grab her, but fortunately, her house was on the opposite side of the road. She got lucky, but Zara wasn't that lucky. Zara left the bar after saying goodbye to her friend and was on her way home when she tragically crossed paths with Jordan, a fatal coincidence. He followed her for some distance while gradually increasing his pace. He approached her from behind, grabbed her by the neck, and dragged her to a driveway. He then strangled her till she was unconscious. Zara actually fought back hard, but with his height, weight, and strength, she was overpowered. He sexually assaulted her and repeatedly kicked and stamped on her head and body with massive force that is almost unimaginable. If it wasn't for the CCTV footage, it would have been hard to imagine that anyone could treat another human in such a violent and shocking manner. What's even sickening is the fact that he did this to her 3 times. Like, he would walk away, come back, do what he had done 3 times. And he did all that in a span of 9 minutes while she was unconscious. He took her phone and threw it over the fence to the neighboring compound to make sure she wouldn't call for help. This was maybe after her phone pinged with a text from her friend Bamini, who asked, "Are you home, hon?" because they had parted 20 minutes earlier, or maybe even before the text. Either way, she couldn't get to her phone. He took her purse, leggings, and underwear, which were later found abandoned nearby. Her purse had been disorganized and her items were scattered. He left her almost lifeless, half-naked body at the pavement and was captured by cameras arriving at 2:47 a.m. at his trailer in Fairground. Zara was found by a stranger at 2:44 a.m. who immediately called an ambulance, and the paramedics started treating her fatal injuries. Unfortunately, she passed away at 10 a.m. after 5 hours of intense surgery. Too much damage had been caused. She had 46 separate injuries, including severe blunt force trauma, lacerations, and bruisings. Her family was beyond devastated and heartbroken as she was taken away from them in an instant. Zara always advocated for women's safety and always spoke about it with his friends and family. Talk of a cruel twist of fate. Postmortem revealed that she had died of a traumatic brain injury, prolonged neck compression, and blood loss. In short, she had been stamped and strangled to death. Jordan got into his caravan, slept peacefully, and the following day he was captured by a CCTV camera disposing of his bloody clothes from that night in a bin near the ticket office at the fairground. He was arrested on June 27th, 37 hours after his unspeakable actions in his fairground caravan.
You're under arrest for rape and murder of a female at Cranbrook Road.
Probation officers have blood on their hands. This is according to Zara Aleena's aunt, and I understand her. This man had just been released from prison on probation after serving a portion of his sentence. The probation service had no address for him, he wasn't electronically tagged, he didn't turn up for a probation hearing and wasn't arrested. His second failure to go for the appointment should have seen him thrown in prison, but it took 4 more days to get the paper signed while he was roaming the streets as a free man. It was during this time that Zara lost her life to this sexual predator. He should also have been listed as a high-risk offender, not a medium-risk offender.
Our streets are not safe. Probation work has to be tight, has to be high quality, because the risks, the stake is high. The stake is lives. Zara's life was taken, and probation have blood on their hands.
After his arrest, he claimed he was on medication for ADHD and suffered from split personality disorder, but no psychiatric report was ever produced for him as he never requested for one. He also had a history of violent behavior. He was violent to his previous partners throughout the last 12 years. While being interrogated, he told police officers they were boring him at some point and even threatened them. The audacity. During his hearing, his barrister said that his client had no memory of what had happened after leaving the pub due to the amount of alcohol he had consumed. He continued to say that he was out to have sex with or without consent, but there's no indication that he would have killed those other women. With Zara, it all went wrong during the course of the struggle, that there was anger, frustration, panic, that it was not premeditated, but that doesn't excuse his responsibility for what happened. I honestly have to say a lot about this statement, but I'm just gonna keep it to myself for now. I almost forgot to mention Mark Sweeney actually refused to show up on the day of his hearing. Zara's family had been denied a chance to put their face on the man who had taken her life. Police couldn't do anything about it. He was not the first offender to have succeeded in not showing up in court actually. Kuchi Salamad, who killed 28-year-old teacher Sabina Nessa, also refused to appear in court for his hearing, and Emma Tustin, who had killed her stepson, also didn't show her face during her hearing. Jordan pleaded guilty to the assault and murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 38 years.
Considering all these features, after a trial, the minimum term would have been 43 years. I allow 5 years, as I have said, for the plea of guilty indicated by counsel on the 16th of November, a few weeks before trial. A sentence of 4 years concurrent is imposed for sexual assault. The sentence for the brutal, sexually motivated murder of Zara Aleena is imprisonment for life. The defendant will serve 38 years as the minimum term.
First things first, how come no one heard her scream and she was on a residential area? I'm assuming since she did put a fight, she screamed as well. Were they afraid to find a way to help a helpless woman? I don't know about this, but maybe they were in deep sleep. Now let me give my comment on the lawyer's statement. Like, how can people predict how certain situations would turn out is beyond me, and how they can be confident in saying the reaction would have been different with the other women is something I don't think should be said out loud. But anywho, he was a lawyer doing his job. He continued to explain how Jordan came from a messed up family where he didn't receive any love from either parent and had a tough upbringing. His mother was a drug addict who was always focused on one thing: where to get her next fix. She was a very spiteful, vindictive, and a horribly poisonous person. His father was hardly ever around, and in fact his first memory of his father is when he was trying to drown his mother in the bath. But can he really be excused because of this? I don't think so. He was a total psychopath and narcissist. He came from a dysfunctional family, yes, suffered from physical violence and sexual abuse, yes, but I mean, he's now a grown-up and should have found strength to fight all these challenges. The experiences should have given him reason to make sure his life was not going to end in ruins. Instead, he should have turned it around. He is not the only person to have gone through such an experience, and I'm not trying to sound bad, but the thing is, life is full of challenges. We all struggle in our own different ways, but you can't use that as an excuse to hurt other people. I just hope that the family will find the peace and comfort they deserve.
Even after identifying her, even after touching her dead body, even after burying her, it doesn't compute. We're constantly stuck in a loop of disbelief, constantly stuck in a loop of images in our mind about what happened to her, the horror that she faced, the pain she must have endured. We live in a horror film.
Thanks for watching. See you in my next one.